Welcome back to the Casual Gaming Conversation. We got a doozy for you today, but things are going to be a little bit different. We pre-recorded our Game of the Year discussion a few days ago, and we're going to stitch in this first bit as like an interstitial, so we're giving you all the casual gaming goodies that you're used to and come to expect. We're going to do a hot take, we're going to rip a draft, and then after that, it will smoothly transition into our Game of the Year discussion. We know what it is. We know what won and what didn't. But you don't know that yet. So, feeling good?
Yeah, it's been a good week. I'm exhausted. I think that the holidays are really starting to settle in, and like the cold atmosphere and the gray days. It's been a little bit. It's been a little tough to just start getting into the holiday season.
It's so funny the way that you're like gray days and cold, and I'm just like gray days and cold.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I love it.
We're so different on that fact. For me, it's like the social or the seasonal depression hits. It's so immediate.
It's definitely a thing with like it getting darker earlier, but that never really bothered me as much as it was in Massachusetts. But the gray days, the rainy and snowy and grayness, I'm like, that's what I'm all about. That just reminds me of getting stuck inside and having a good excuse to play video games all day.
I mean, that's facts. But I was talking to my girlfriend about this a couple days ago, being like, my apartment feels so much like an office at this point. Like there's no real separation between work and relax, because I work in the living room. We shoot all our content in the living room. Last week was like the full pushing the boundaries of like, this place is not an apartment for an entire week. Yeah. And so it's nice to have the space back a little bit and do some of the good productive things, start eating well again and stuff like that. After the Game Awards, we just let it all loose. It was Nick streaming for 30 hours. It's your apartment's going to be destroyed. It's we're having a few beverages. It's been a lot of fun.
And definitely loose.
Yeah, absolutely. What was I going to say? At the end of the day, though, it was a blast. And the Game Awards was electric. If you're watching this post-Game Awards, thank you. I feel like we say it every podcast. But this year with like expectations, a lot of people have asked us, like, what did we expect from Game Awards numbers? What did we expect from Twitch followers and Twitch or TikTok followers and all these things? And we're like, dude, we're so thankful and so lucky that like anyone gives a flying shit about us and our opinions, that like it's pretty unbelievable to be where we are, and we really appreciate it. The whole team really appreciates it. I know Connor and I discuss it all the time. But yeah, we still are like coming down from that high.
At some point, we're gonna have to just stop talking about this on every podcast, just because I feel like we talk about it every single time. But just thank you. We're always gonna be thankful of the whole situation.
I don't know when it will stop. I think that once we have our first podcast hit 1,000 views, that'll be like. I mean, I used to podcast, and like when we would podcast, it would be like, dude, 40 views. Like it was awesome. Yeah. Like 100 views was like, holy shit, 100 views. But like the watch time would be like 3.5 minutes, or like that means that 2 people watched all of it. And then Connor's like, I watched all of it once, and I'm like, shit, okay, that means 1 person watched all of it. And now like people watch it in like on average 20 to 30 minutes of the pod. It's unbelievable.
All right, we got to get into the hot takes. We are a little bit crunched for time, which is, it wouldn't be a casual gaming conversation if we weren't crunched for time. My wings took too long today.
They took an hour.
Yeah, don't get me started. We're not talking about that because it's gonna get me fired up.
Yeah.
I'll kick us
Those
off.
wings will get you fired up later though this afternoon.
They weren't that spicy though. They were mild, and they were very mild wings.
Oh
like,
man,
yeah.
I need a little spice.
I'm usually, it's an okay amount of spice for most places, but I never get Wingstop. I just was feeling it, and that was basically like somebody said mild in the other room, and then that was the flavor.
I do like that we're like, we need to get into it, we need to be fast or whatever, but I just enjoy talking so much. There's people like being like, I want to know what their freaking Game of the Year is right now, and we're talking about Wingstop. Like, oh my gosh,
right.
golly.
I'm going to get into my hot take. It's a doozy this week.
I'm excited.
It's bad, but it's good. My gaming hot take for this week is Fire Phil Spencer. Get him out of here.
Oh no.
It's over. It's been over for too long at this point. This isn't console war bullshit. This is just my take on Xbox and what I want for their future and what is acceptable for Xbox is not Phil Spencer. The buck stops with him. He is the arbiter of what should come out, what the quality of it is, and delivering the goods. And Xbox has not been able to get their ducks in a row for basically a decade at this point. The studios that they bought in that first initial run, your Obsidians, your Ninja Theory, they put out small games, your Pentiments, your Grounded from Obsidian, but we haven't gotten anything that I would consider a console seller, something that's going to push people to buy an Xbox, and that's unacceptable. For 8 studios to not have put out a banger across any of them is just unacceptable. And then now it's bleeding into Bethesda with your Redfalls and your Starfields, where you just need to look at these games and say, what do we need to do to make it have a seal of Xbox quality and really hit that high first-party bar? And Phil Spencer has never been able to deliver that. And then we're seeing it with their other studios that haven't put out games, where id was kind of regularly putting out games. Machine Games was regularly putting out games. Where is the Indiana Jones game? Where is it? I don't trust them to get anything out in a timely fashion and of a high quality. And that comes down to Phil Spencer's leadership. And it frustrates me when people talk about Xbox and Phil Spencer, because I think at the end of the day, it comes down to he's one of us. He's cool. Like, he clearly plays video games and loves video games. That's all great. And I think Phil Spencer's a nice guy, and I've always thought he's like super personable on stage and everything. And I think it's cool that he also plays video games, which is cooler than you can say for your Jim Ryans of the industry. But man, like, he just has not delivered the goods, and I think it is unacceptable to be at the top of one of the biggest media companies in the world and let your brand just sink these new IPs, these storied IPs in Halo, and just let that all go by the wayside. And it all comes down to him. Like, he needs to be the one to make these tough decisions, to make sure that there's a high quality across the board and that games are coming out at a proper clip. But we had no first-party exclusive games of real value on Xbox until Halo Infinite, and that was a year and a half later, and it wasn't even of that high quality that people were looking for.
You're going to do Forza Horizon 5, my game of the year of 2021, that dirty? Come on.
It's great. So there's certain games like your Pentiments, your Forzas, your Gears 4 and 5 were pretty decent. Apparently, I haven't played them, but I've heard that people like them. And Game Pass is a great value. I think it's definitely Xbox's biggest thing, but if that is his entire legacy, is moving Xbox away from being a console powerhouse and being a Game Pass machine, I think his legacy is tarnished. If that's it for him and that's what we remember Phil Spencer by, like, I don't think history will be very kind to Phil Spencer. All love to Xbox. I want them to do better and to achieve what they are capable of achieving. They have some of the greatest teams on the planet. I just think that Phil Spencer is clearly and has proven time and time again that he is not the guy to lead them into the future.
I mean, let's just from a broad scope of major announcements that like were these get hype moments. And I know PlayStation has their fair share of them. You look at the KOTOR remake, but you think of things like Perfect Dark.
Oh, that's never coming out.
Hellblade 2.
Took forever.
Not only took forever, but it's like we still don't have a date on that game. We still don't have this is when this game's coming out on that. Machine Games with indie. Like, it's unbelievable that, like, not only is it these games are taking forever to come out that are these, like, tentpole titles that you really expect, but, like, they're taking forever and we don't believe in the quality.
And now you're adding Activision into the mix, more and more studios, and clearly they can't handle the ones that they have currently, and you add Activision into it, like, this is getting out of control. How are we expected to trust that they can shepherd these studios when they couldn't even shepherd the 8 that they had, that they added to their team, and then they couldn't shepherd Bethesda when they added them, and now we expect them to be able to put stuff out with all of these studios, including the Activision acquisition. It's like, this isn't happening, dude. Like, at least it's not happening if Phil Spencer's the guy, because it's clearly not working with him. And I don't know why this isn't the conversation we're all having, because, like, if it was Jim Ryan at the front of Xbox for these last 10 years, people would have his head on a pitchfork. Like, it would be over. Like, we hated Jim Ryan for 3 years, and we got, during that time, Rift Apart, Returnal, Spider-Man, like, God of War, Forza, Horizon, Forbidden West. Like, why? Like, we all hated him. Yeah. These are the games we got during that. It's like, what are we doing? Like, why does he get a pass? I don't understand it.
I don't really get. I do kind of agree where it's like, he's a cool dude. Like, I like, he's one of those figures that in gaming that one day I would love to just be able to pick his brain and, like, honestly thank him for Game Pass, because I do think that Game Pass is his legacy, and I do think that a lot of people, I will, for years and years to come, talk about that August through October run that Game Pass had this year, where it was banger after banger. The highest quality games are coming out day and date to Game Pass and PC Game Pass, where I, like, was always a Game Pass hater a little bit, where I was like, I'm just donating $10 to them every single month. I always subscribe, but, like, I'm just donating this money. Surely enough, now it's like, okay, take the deep breath. These games are terrific. Mm-hmm. And I'm playing them here and not on my PlayStation because it's cheap. I like to play a game like Lies of P, Sea of Stars, Forza Motorsport, Starfield for $10, or you have it for 3 months, $30 to play those for 9+ out of 10 titles for some. I'm not a huge Starfield fan, but, like, for me, those other 3 games, I'm like, those are all high quality games. Like, unbelievable. And that's under his leadership, and I do think that he's making some of the right partnerships and some of the right moves. But what does deter me from, like, giving that full seal of approval is, I want the one. I just want the one game that, like, I can look at and be like, that was him. And when it comes down to it,
Sony could, like, that could be on a Sony platform.
Yeah.
At
the end of the
Sony
day,
would never let a Redfall come out on their platform.
Yeah.
Ever.
At the end of the day,
I don't think they would even let a Halo Infinite come out.
I believe that is Playground. I believe that is that studio that makes the Forza games and then now has Fable under control. Fable can't come out and be a stinker. Like, it can't. And
we say that about all of their stuff, though, and it's just not the case
at
this point.
It's hard. I feel like we talk about the swimming in sevens, the old Easy Allies line, but now it's like, I think that they're eating in 8s consistently, and sometimes it's worse. Yeah. What they need is crazy 9s. Like, they just need 9s. Or at least 1 or 2 a year, because I think that, like, going back to PlayStation this year, it was not a fantastic year for exclusives, but you did have Final Fantasy. You did have Spider-Man, which a lot of people are demanding that this game wins Game of the Year somewhere, please. But, like, it's tough. And I like, commend him for putting his best foot forward, where he does need to have a tighter reins on some of these teams. But, like, yeah, I also do respect him for earlier this year taking one on the chin and about Redfall, but at the same time, you shouldn't have had to do that in the first place.
I think that was the most embarrassing interview I've ever seen anybody give in my entire life. Like, just admitting that basically we suck and we're not going to ever come back.
And we don't need good games.
We don't need good games. Like, why would you go and publicly say that? Like, that looks so bad on the Xbox brand. And I just don't think any of what he said is necessarily true. You need good games. Xbox is capable of making good games. Can they win people back? Yes. Do I think just because people have a digital library on one console doesn't mean that they wouldn't be willing to pick up a second console if it had good exclusives on it? Like, obviously, I would do that.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's really funny. Connor and I have had many discussions about, like, certain decisions we're making with, like, next year and what we need to purchase for the studio space and stuff like that. And I want that Xbox Series X real badly. I want 2 of them. I want 3 of them. I want them stacked in a pyramid. So, yeah, I'm a believer that they can still turn around. I think 2024 has all the writings on the wall to potentially be Xbox's year. We need Hellblade before June, May or earlier, because then we need more time to get another banger out. They need to.
But do I think Avowed or Hellblade at this point, based off of what we have seen, are of PlayStation quality? No.
Hellblade, I believe in.
I think it's a matter of if the gameplay is good, and I don't believe it's going to be based off of what we've seen.
Okay.
It seems like they're hiding something. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
All right.
My hot take for this week is that the PS2 franchises that we know and love, talking Jack, talking Sly, we need to accept that they are never coming back. They're never coming back. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but they're never coming back. Like, there's so many people that adore these games. Like, we've noticed that our fan base is just consistently banging the drums for certain PS2 titles to make their grandiose return. And they just won't for a multitude of reasons. I'll throw Spyro in there even. Like, these games won't come back because these teams not only are moving on to other things, you don't want Naughty Dog making another Jak and Daxter, another Crash Bandicoot. You want Naughty Dog making the next freaking Naughty Dog game. Like, next goated ass Naughty Dog game. Like, we're in a world where, yes, nostalgia is a deep, deep, deep drug. But at the end of the day, nostalgia is only going to take you so far. And what PlayStation cares about is the sales numbers. Sly Cooper 4 comes out. No one bought it. Like, and the people that did bought it enjoyed it a decent amount. Not enough people bought it where Sony looks at their financial sheet at the end of the year and they say, that's a W. And at the end of the day, I'm sorry. Like, I want there to be an awesome Sly Cooper or a Jak and Daxter that is next gen. But what I think the best service that these games can hold at this point, even a game like Infamous, I think what we need to just go and say is remaster them for the people that want them. Let's put small teams, secondary teams on these projects to remaster, up-res them. Throw them out on PS5, especially the PS3 console, which is the lost generation in my opinion. Like, it's so hard to play those games nowadays unless you have a PS3 and have the game still. Mm-hmm. We need to accept, and I'm sorry, but we need to accept that they're not coming back.
There you go.
No notes?
Not really. I mean, I just don't know why. I mean, they could give it to a smaller team for like a lot of these and let people have fun with it. Like, I'm sure there's plenty of small teams that would love to make a Jak and Daxter game, but they're protective of their IP. Sony is. They let smaller studios work on Sly Cooper with Sumo Digital, and they kind of messed it up, and it didn't sell well, and it's not considered of the same quality as the original 3. So now when people talk about Sly Cooper, they talk about it ending on 4, which is not great.
Is Monolith LBP?
No, that's Monolith.
I'm just. Who is LBP?
Media Molecule.
Media Molecule. I knew it was an M. Anyways, give Media Molecule the next Sly game.
I never.
They're too creative. I know they're too creative, but come on. I'd rather that than them to work on another Dreams.
It's finally time. We are about to get into the Co-op 64 top games of the year. Nick and I both came to Brady with top 10 lists. 1 to 10, what our favorite games of the year were. Brady scored them based off of their placement on the list. Number 1 gets 10 points. Number 10 gets 1 point. 1 point. And he added them all together and then ranked them off of that. So it's a mixture of Nick and I's opinions here. And we're going to find out what ends up on top. We do not know the list.
We don't know. And this is really exciting. Because
Yes.
Connor and I have, for the past 4 months, basically, have not had a single conversation about ranking games this year. Like, we've basically been like, yeah, it's a contender, it's up there, but I have no idea. There's like certain games on my list that I think you think is number 1, that's number 5, and vice versa.
I really don't have much of a clue of what your list is.
I have no idea what your list is. I think I know the games, but I don't really know where they're placed at all.
Right. So we're going to get right into it. I'm going to intro this like it's kind of like a TikTok real fast, and then we'll just go from there. Okay?
Yep.
All right. This is Co-op 64's top games of the year. Brady, What is the first game?
Coming in at number 8 is Forza Motorsports.
That's it.
That's
Okay.
okay. No
We're
ties.
worried about ties. We're worried about ties. So Forza Motorsport.
This is all me,
That's
baby.
all Nick. What do you got?
So this is one of the best games this year. Period. With a bullet. People need to play more racing games. Like at the end of the day, our conversation is going to rely a lot on some of the bigger titles this year. A lot of GOTY discussion. But a game like Forza Motorsport is not only a great addition to anyone that enjoys racing games, it's one of the most important additions to Game Pass this year. That month stretch between September and October to cap it off with a Forza title and have it be as high quality, polished, and terrific as a racing sim as it is, dude, people need to play this game. Like, it is one of the most important games on Game Pass because it's just one of the most fun games on Game Pass. Like, it's a game that anyone can play, have a good time in. The rewind function is that Forza is known for, where if you make a mistake in a race and you just let's run it back a little bit, is on full display, so you can go. Connor, I'll even trust you driving around in this game. Like, it's so damn good. I'm sad that more people didn't play this game. I understand that I get to tote it as one of the best games this year because guess what? It is one of the best games this year. It is number 8 on our list for a reason. It was in my top 10 for a reason. And at the end of the day, it's terrific. It really is a spectacular package. One of my favorite games this year. And yeah, I won't be able to shut up about this game unless you shut me up. So I want eventually me and the boys to go racing someday. I don't think that'll happen anytime soon with our schedule, but it's terrific and I love it. And like when we were discussing, have I played enough of it to put it on a list? I played enough Forza in my day to understand only diving in for a couple few hours, meaning like 7-ish hours into this game. Definitively, this is one of the best Forza games. It's the best Forza Motorsport with a bullet. I'm super excited to have it on our list and display it as one of the best games this year.
All right, let's get into the next game. Brady, what do we got?
Falling at number 7 is Starfield.
Nice.
So this is definitely not on my list. We all knew that it would not be on my list. I have said multiple times that game is too boring, gray.
Just talk your shit,
and
dude.
you
can't just let me have this one?
But it's on our list for a reason. Connor must have put it high enough. Connor,
I put it decently high from what I remember. Nothing crazy here.
Yeah.
But Starfield is a great video game, in my opinion. It is my personal favorite Bethesda game, Bethesda Softworks game. I think that it is a technical marvel, the way that there is so many different worlds to explore and dig into. The mission structures are all really interesting and exciting. Your side missions, your main missions. It's the best main mission sequence in any Bethesda game, bar none. And it has the best New Game Plus maybe in any video game ever. It is so interesting, and the way that people have talked about it and the way the things that people have discovered after the fact, I still see new stuff constantly about the New Game Plus, and I'm like, wow, that game is doing something different.
I do got to give him some credit. I am on TikTok enough and have seen videos enough times to be like, this New Games Plus is special. And as someone that didn't get there, because for me it was a little bit of a slog at the start and I just was getting bored and not interested, for those that pushed through and really gave this world a chance, it seemed like they gave back tenfold. Right. And that's so impressive. Yeah, this game is huge. I think that some of the polish is not there and certain mistakes are apparent. But if you're able to look past a couple of things and really dive into this world, you get rewarded. And that is really important. And I do think that is definitively one of the best titles this year from a scope, and then the New Game Plus is apparently phenomenal. So I'm not too upset that it's like on our overall list, and I'm a little upset that it's over my beloved Forza. But like at the end of the day, it's a terrific game. I can live with it.
Yeah.
All right.
Give us the next game, Brady.
Coming in at number 6, we have Cocoon.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
It is just Cocoon. Holy shit.
Top of our list is going to be tie after tie.
Probably. This is one of the best puzzle games of all time. This indie team came out swinging in such a way, a debut indie, and it won that at the Game Awards, and it's well deserved because this is definitively one of the best puzzle games of all time. The atmosphere, the creativeness, the fact that I'm a moron and most of this game doesn't hold your hand. There's no hand holding. There's no directions in this game. They just let you run around in this sandbox and figure things out for yourself. And I was able to figure things out and have that satisfying puzzle piece moment where you are like, is this what I'm supposed to do? And then it is, and it all works out, and your mind feels blown. You feel satisfied. You feel excited that this worked out. And there's no reason that you should believe it to work out other than the fact that it's your creativity that's stepping in for this puzzle. It's one of the most impressive games I've ever played. I cannot wait for what this team does next. Um, like, there's a case that this is the best game this year because it is so tight, it is so terrific, and once again, I will beat the drum. We just started out this list with a 1-2-3 Xbox Game Pass list. Xbox came out swinging with Game Pass this year in a terrific way, and if you're like, this doesn't have any horrific new titles, Cocoon, Liza P, Forza, Starfield. This is one of those years that I'm gonna look back, and I think most people will look back and be like, Xbox had the goods. Sea of Stars. It's unbelievable what Xbox did for Game Pass towards the end of this year. And then I assume a game that we'll talk about later in this list at the start of this year. And so I as someone that we get roped in as Sony ponies all the time, and we definitely play most of our third party and obviously all the Sony first party on our PS5. But Xbox forced me this year to continuously open up my PC and hop into Xbox Game Pass, Forza Motorsport, and then most importantly Cocoon, two of the best games this year, both Xbox wins. And yeah, Team Green brought it, and I adore Cocoon for everything that it is. If you have 6 hours, if you just have a Saturday, play Cocoon. It's so good. It's so good. It feels almost like Inscription, where I'm I don't want to tell you a lot about this game because you just need to experience it for yourself. So I'm gonna try to keep it a little vague, but yes, it's terrific. Atmosphere, music, puzzle mechanics, all top of the field, and it's terrific. So Cocoon are number 6.
Getting to the next game.
Coming in at number 5, we have Super Mario Wonder.
And that's it. Oh, interesting. We have very few ties so far. It's very interesting.
Oh God, it's going to be a bloodbath up top.
Yeah.
It is going to be a bloodbath up top.
Super Mario Wonder at number 5. That seems about right for me. It was on both of our lists, I imagine. Just a sweet and savory game to play with friends and play on your own. There's something just so comforting about 2D Mario, and Mario Wonder kind of brings us back to that creativity and that magic and that wonder of early Mario games. It's definitely the best Mario since Super Mario World, in my opinion, when it comes to 2D. And I had a blast playing it with you guys on the couch and enjoying that experience. We were laughing. We were crying from laughing.
Yeah.
And we had a great time. It was an awesome experience.
Mario just does something so special, especially with the couch co-op experience that we were able to have, where we are able to go and be stupid, be silly. When a couple people are falling off, you blame a person. I'm pretty sure all of us yelled at each other, blaming them, being like, "Why are you doing this?" But then inevitably, immediately after, the person that was just yelling was the person that screwed up, and then you're yelling at that person. But it's fun yelling. It's not the actual anger. It's what the frick, dude? Just fun, crazy stupidness that I want from a Mario game. The new mechanics in this game are top notch. The Wonder Seeds are going to be, in my opinion, one of the most underrated mechanics in all of video game history, because people are like, yeah, it's a really cool mechanic. No, they basically said we're gonna double the level for all of these levels. That's unbelievable, with new exciting corners and turns. It's unbelievable what they were able to do with this game. The worlds are interesting. The new power-ups are interesting. This was a game that we're starting to get in the games that I'm we're making the case consistently for why this is the greatest year in gaming history, where a game like Super Mario Wonder comes out last year, and I think that it it's a top 3 game last year. If it comes out in 2021, I think it's a top 2 game that year. Like, it's so terrific for this game to land at number 5. Shows that we have so many high quality titles, and yeah, we know there's ties coming up even further on the board. So it's not even our 5th highest game. It sits at number 5 on our list due to ties, but like, holy smokes, what a freaking title Nintendo brought it this year. I don't know what's about to happen on this list, dude. And I'm nervous at this point because I know that there's 2 titles that you have very high up on your list. And I know that there's a couple titles that I have very high up on our list. And I'm excited to see where they lie and differ. And holy smokes, are you ready?
Yeah, let's get a nice game.
Falling at number 4, we have Spider-Man 2.
Wow.
Is it just Spider-Man 2?
It is just Spider-Man 2.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. That's crazy. At number 4.
Oh my, dude, we're gonna have so many ties.
Yeah, that's wild.
Let's talk Spidey. Number 4, I gave it a 9. You gave it an 8. It's one of the best games this year. It's terrific. I feel like we speak negatively on it so often.
You must have put it so high.
I put it decently high.
I put it at 10.
I think I put it at like 6 or 7.
Okay.
Or 5.
Interesting.
Or 4.
How many points did this get?
I didn't put it at 4. My top.
It fell at 4 with 6 points.
My gosh. Dude, all of our high
So
games.
you were at 5 then?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. My top 5 is pretty, or my top 4, I think, is pretty like well known at this point of where I rank those top 4 games. And then so yeah, I have it there. I'm fine with that. I can live with that. But like, I gave it a 9. And I want to take this opportunity because I feel like we've discussed Spider-Man negatively so often to discuss it positively just for a moment. The boss rush at the end of this game is like one of the best feelings of 2023, where it's just nonstop action, nonstop hype, nonstop like Spider-Man epic moments. And I can't believe that they like turned me from thinking this game is just great to amazing, because I still don't like, the narrative is really solid. It's not anything too special, but because of the combat just consistently elevating through boss after boss, the emotional beats that happen because of those boss fights, like, and then there is the traversal that we discuss and love. This game just is simply amazing. Like, it is what I think of when I think about an 859. Like, that's what I want from Insomniac, and they delivered exactly that. Sure, Insomniac didn't, in my opinion, go to that next level. They didn't hit that Sony Santa Monica Naughty Dog level, but like, that doesn't mean that they're still not an A-tier studio that creates 90, 87 Metacritic games. Like, they're terrific. The opening sequence in this game, one of the best sequences of the year. The side quests, some of the side, like, this was my first platinum ever. Like, I never thought, like, when we were discussing trophy hunting, I used to laugh and be like, I'm never platinuming a fucking game. I don't know if there's a game I would care about enough to platinum. Even games like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that I banged the drum for over and over again. I'm like, I don't want to have to play through like the graveyard section again and like do certain things, but I love this world and just being in it and collecting the things because the traversal is so damn fun that I was like, yeah, I'm going to platinum this. And then I did. Like, it's an immensely special game to me. It will always be that game that I say is my first platinum, and I feel like it sounds dumb, but it's like a deserved title to be my first platinum because I loved it so much.
Yeah, I think Spider-Man 2 is a great video game, as I said in the review, and as I will continue to reiterate, but it is just a great video game. In a year, 2023, where there's so many absolute memorable bangers, it's really hard to stand up next to all of them and talk exceedingly high about Spider-Man 2. But it does a lot of great things. The combat is fun and fluid. The swinging continues to impress every single time I pick up the controller. I'm like, yeah, it feels great. There's nothing like swinging and then now gliding through New York City in Spider-Man. And switching between the two protagonists was pretty interesting and fun, even though I do think it hurts Miles' story a little bit. Totally. This is Peter's story. Yep. But then you just come back to that fact that the story, in my opinion, is a step down from Spider-Man 2018. So that hurts it a little bit, but overall, a great experience. Happy it's on the list.
I'm happy that it's mainly above Super Mario Bros. Wonder. And I think that that's a long form discussion you and I have had, being like, which one is the better game? Because we have them at such similar spots in like our reviews and rankings and everything.
Super Mario Wonder's substantially better.
Yeah, and I think that Spider-Man is literally a tick. I believe I had it one spot higher.
Gotcha.
Than Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and it's amazing. My thing is, at the end of the day, I don't have this large desire to go back into Super Mario Bros. Wonder after beating it with you guys, but I did have that desire to go back into Spider-Man, and I think that is that extra little cherry on top, and that's why I put it a little bit higher on my list.
What do we got next?
Falling at number 3. Here's where the ties come in. We have a 2-way tie between Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty and Dead Space Remake.
Oh, this is both me.
I put Dead Space on my list.
Nice.
But
where? Low?
I believe I do the math in your head, Connor. You can do the math because you must have had Dead Space and Cyberpunk one spot away from each other.
I think so, yeah.
And I gave it my number 10.
Okay.
So that's what bumped up Dead Space.
I had Cyberpunk at 3
and then
Dead Space at 4.
Yeah. And so that's... Holy shit, dude. I have so many games tied in too. But where do you want to start? Let's start with Cyberpunk. I want to get your... it's your number 3.
Yeah. I would include Cyberpunk just 2.0, the update in this as well. But what a redemption arc for CD Projekt Red. When this game was coming out, I was banging the drum saying, I don't know if this is going to meet expectations. Why do we trust them so implicitly when they've only really made one amazing game in The Witcher 3, which is, granted, a amazing game.
Yeah.
But they've done it once. We need to see them do it a second time before I'm really starting to trust them, and unfortunately we got burned.
Yeah.
So for them to stick with it and actually deliver on the promises that were made with Cyberpunk 2077 and then elevate it even further with Phantom Liberty is fantastic. I can't believe we are where we are with this game at this point. When it comes to acting, world building, combat, art style, and most importantly, music, this is one of the greatest RPGs of all time, standing up there and possibly exceeding The Witcher 3 at this point. There's moments in Phantom Liberty that had my jaw on the fucking floor when it comes to just the mixing of all of these things. The music is pumping as you're loading a shotgun into somebody's face, and then you're switching to your next gun that can shoot bullets that ricochet off of walls or can lock onto people and shoot over stuff. And it's so fluid, fast, and fun, but nothing is not working at the highest level when it comes to Cyberpunk. There was times this year where this was my game of the year. I was playing it and I was like, this is just next level at this point. And I liked Cyberpunk when it came out. I thought it was a 7 out of 10 game. I had a good experience with it, even though it was a buggy mess. I still could see the promise.
Yeah.
It was always there. They just had to dig it out.
Yep.
And I think they finally have done it. And if you have a beefy PC, this is going to be a amazing experience for you. I played it on a HP Omen 15 laptop with a RTX 2060 in it on just regular high settings. Cooked my PC a little bit, but it looked gorgeous on that. I cannot even imagine what it looks like on a beefy rig. So, because of all those things, Keanu Reeves, Idris Elba, these actors are giving some fantastic performances in game, as good as they would give in the real world.
Yeah.
And that is all brought out by CD Projekt Red and their insistence on making something of the highest quality. And when they don't do that, fixing the problem.
Yep.
So I think Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty is a must play, and it is one of the best games of the year for sure.
It's one of those games that if I had 50 extra hours and a 4090, sign me the freak up.
Oh yeah, that's the thing is whenever we get a new PC for our setup for me being able to stream from home, I think the first game I'm booting up is Cyberpunk 2077.
Absolutely. And now talking about worlds to explore. Is it the Ishimura?
The USG Ishimura.
There we go.
You were close.
I got the back end of it. But yeah, let's talk about Dead Space Remake, a game that I've consistently touted as being really damn good. This is one of your favorite horror titles of all time.
Yeah. I think until recently it was probably the greatest survival horror.
Yeah.
ever made for me.
And let's just talk about the weapons first and foremost. The weapons are what make this game for me special. Where the story didn't grab me too hard. The world and the monsters weren't even like that thing that like it scared the shit out of me. Don't get me wrong. There is footage on our channel of me playing this late nights and on stream and shitting my pants. With that being said, what makes this game really for me go from like that 7 to that 8.5 is weaponry. The bolt cutter or whatever it's not a bolt cutter. I'm thinking about Alan Wake 2 too much. The first weapon you have,
the plasma
cutter.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is one of the best weapons in gaming. Period.
And you can play the whole game with the plasma cutter and you get a trophy for that. And it's still a fantastic, fun experience as you're chopping off limbs and precision shooting all these enemies.
That's what it comes down to, is the way like I think of horror games and I think of survival horror. It's all about the headshot and item management. This allows you a little bit more of a experience to have some more ammo and have a little bit more like of a loadout, basically.
It's more of a video game than a item management sim.
Totally.
Like you're constantly switching between weapons, and you're not really afraid to shoot stuff and waste ammo, but you always do want to have it. And it's almost always, it's never you don't have ammo. It's you don't have the ammo for the gun that you want to be using at that moment. So then, like, you have the big enemies coming at you that explode if you shoot them, and you're like, oh shit, I'm out of flamethrower ammo. Yeah. So, like, now that creates a whole different scenario that you have to
And then I'm using a bolt cutter to, like, clean up the little guys on the ground. And, you know,
you mean
like,
the Ripper?
No, I'm the plasma cutter. Yeah. Sorry. The plasma cutter to go and, like, clean up the little guys on the ground, even though that's, like, not what you're supposed to be using. You're supposed to use the flamethrower or some plasma gun. But, like, it's terrific in the fact that, like, it puts you in that oh shit scenario, but not in the I don't have ammo, I don't have the right gun. Right. And it's terrific.
And then when it comes to like the remake aspects of Dead Space, like I think this is one of the most impressive steps forward for a video game. I think the original Dead Space is fantastic. I think Dead Space Remake modernizes it in such a way that like goes so above and beyond. The way that you can shoot that force gun and like the shotgun that like and you see the skin of the necromorphs just like launch off of them and you keep shooting them and more launches off and more launches off. It's like they don't need to do that, but like that's cool as fuck. And like the way their body dismembers and everything, like it's really quite impressive. And from a sound perspective, from a visual lighting perspective, this game is dark.
Yeah.
Like it is like pitch black at points. Like you can't see shit. And when you have a necromorph behind you and in front of you and you're fighting the one in front of you and then you can hear it creeping up behind you and it's dark, there's nothing quite like it when it comes to the scares. That game made me, I don't think the game is necessarily like I didn't go to bed and think about how scary the game was, but when you're actually playing it, I jumped throughout the entire thing. I had my cat on me at one point, and I'm sitting there, and I'm playing, and something comes up behind me, and I go like this, and she went straight up, and straight down, and then bolted. I was like, I'm so sorry, Winry! But it was very funny. But that happened constantly. Like, I was constantly jumping. So, yeah, I think Dead Space is the best survival horror game of this year until recently. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a lot of Nick Evans games left on the top.
We have Connor games too.
Yeah, geez.
Let's get into it.
Before we get into that, shout out Brady for sticking through and listening to this entire podcast.
It's the first time Brady's listened to a podcast. We've tried to be like, Brady, you should listen to the podcast at some point. It's really informative and it might be good for you. And Brady's like, I listen to you guys talk all the time. I'm not going to listen to you talk at work while I'm like doing something else. So that's fair. All right, let's get into the next game.
I appreciate that you guys think I'm listening to you right now. Falling at number 2, we have Resident Evil 4 Remake, tied with Tears of the Kingdom, also tied with Hi-Fi Rush.
Wow.
Yep.
Resident Evil 4, Tears of the Kingdom, Hi-Fi. Interesting. Where do you want to start tackling this?
We have a tie for number 1.
Because you gave your number 1.
Yep.
It's funny, I changed my number 1.
Oh, I also did. Good job.
Yeah.
These are all 9.5s for me. They're all 9.5 out of 10s that have high reaching potential to eventually, for me to just like sink into the fact that.
Where do you want to start with this?
Let's start with Tears.
Okay.
Let's start with Tears.
I think I had this at like 5 for me.
I think I had it like 3.
Three.
I think that we perfectly mirrored, and
Yeah.
then we had Hi-Fi or RE at the same spot. Oh, we definitely had RE4 at the same spot.
I
Tears
have
flip 4.
5.
5? You just said 5 for 2 games,
Yeah,
so
I know. I'm
that
trying to
is.
remember.
Anyways, Brady, you want to come in here? No, Tears at 5 for Connor.
Okay.
So yeah, the math's gonna be what it is, but
So
Tears of the
okay, we're hitting
Kingdom.
with Tears first. Okay.
I think I should kick this one off basically just saying that this is the first Zelda game that I've spent more than 10 hours with. This is the first Zelda game that blew my fucking socks off. And the emotional moments, the hype moments, the story that actually I think is really impressive and really intriguing. Claiming the Master Sword, like doing these things in this game. A lot of people would say that this is Breath of the Wild DLC. As someone that has never experienced Breath of the Wild, I can just say I don't care. Like the package that they delivered with this game is so incredible. And at the end of the day, it's one of the best games I've ever played. It is a 9.5, potentially a 10 out of 10 game. Like this is one of the greatest games of all time. With that being said, when we talk about the other games, we'll get into that soon enough.
Yeah, I'm not one of those people who say that Tears is Breath of the Wild DLC, but I do feel that weight of following up Breath of the Wild because when Breath of the Wild came out, it was unlike anything I'd ever played in my entire life. That openness, that ability to climb anything and go anywhere, like blew me away. And the shrines, the art design, the world in general, like I was in love with it. And then when I came to this, I was like, it feels familiar automatically, even though they add those sky islands, they add the depths. It's like these are really interesting and like amazing aspects and really flesh out the world in a whole new way. And then you not even to mention the new mechanics that are brought in with what is
Ascend,
it? Ascend and the Master Hand. Yeah, yeah.
And the reverse time too.
Yeah, it's all very interesting, and the way that you can handle the shrines and build things and use your little tools to like glide across the map.
Traversal is completely changed.
It's really quite good, and I played I think 80 shrines. Did all the major missions and finished this game out, and I was like, this was a fantastic experience, but I don't like it as much as Breath of the Wild, just because that spark is missing. But it's still in my top 10, obviously, and something I can easily recommend to any Zelda fan.
Yeah, I think that I think you can just recommend this to any open world fan. Like, this game understands an open world sandbox, I think, better than any other game except for things like Elden Ring. Like, it's that level of go where you want, play the way you want to play. There's certain things that I haven't found yet that you have, and vice versa. And that's going to be, everyone's going to have unique experiences. And that conversation around it is also so impressive that they are able to give me, you, Brady, whomever, like a different experience playing this game. Really special what the team did. I think that there's a case that this is the best game this year. I think there's a clear case that this is the best game this year.
Right.
For it to land at number 2, obviously we got some other games we got to talk about. It's really interesting, but I'm in love with this game. Like I've never obsessed over a game as much as I did Tears of the Kingdom this year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
And was it easy to obsess? Because you felt you had to get it done in a certain amount of time.
It started with me, and I've said this multiple times, like on multiple different forms of content. I had an experience in the first hour and a half. I broke the game basically and had to reload a save and was really frustrated that even happened. With that being said, that immediately for me, I was like, I want a dog on this game. I want to be upset with this game. I want to be like potentially a Zelda hater. I don't know, right? Like I don't know what's gonna come from this experience, but I'm gonna give it a fair shake. I'm gonna continue to push forward. And like about 5 hours in, I was like, oh, this game's really.
There's just so many dopamine hits in that game that it's hard to stay mad at it.
Yeah,
for any length of time. It's like, ooh, the next shrine, ooh, the next cave, ooh, the next cool sword, ooh, the next. I'm gonna meld these two things together and make a cool weapon. Like, and like I'm powerful now, and like I got this new. Like you're always led to
new
the
heart,
next
new stamina ring. Like it's unbelievable what they're able to do. You get your glider, you get your horses, you get like all these things that like. The creativity and just the scope of this game is so freaking large. I can't. It's terrific. It's so damn good. And honestly, this was by far the hardest game on my list to rank. I at one point had it as my number one, and one point I had it as my number five. Like
Really?
it is unbelievable
I put
how
this.
difficult
I
it is to
moved
rank
this
it.
around as well. I had it below Starfield at one point, and then I moved it up. I think 2 spots above Hi-Fi and above Starfield.
Okay.
I think. Yeah.
Speaking of Hi-Fi, do we want?
Yeah. I want you to just gush about Hi-Fi.
Okay, yeah. Let me just rock. Let me just get in my bag real quick.
Yeah.
Hi-Fi Rush is definitively this is the headline that I haven't been able to say for this entire time of doing content since we rebranded and everything. Hi-Fi Rush is in the pantheon of my top 3 favorite games now. It is Hi-Fi Rush, The Last of Us, Final Fantasy VII Remake. That is like definitively. It's been a full year of like wanting to come back to this game, loving these characters.
You
Like,
are one with Hi-Fi.
I adored this game. The characters, the moments, the boss fights. There's the wolf boss fight and the hype that it presents is one of my favorite moments this year, if not my favorite moment this year, because it was just pure shock, being like, oh, like this like rich greedy person, and then the wolf game like music hits the Fifth Symphony, and then you're just like, oh shit, it's going down. In the multi-level boss fights, you have just so many creative, terrific characters. It's a perfect Saturday morning cartoon that you get to play through. Chai, I think, should be the future mascot of Xbox. He's so lovable. He's quippy. 808. We just have a cat that's also a metronome. Are you kidding me? This game was designed for me. And from the first time I saw it at the developer direct, I said I want to play this game. And then it got shadow dropped, and I was like, I'm playing this game tonight. Going to happen. And sure as shit, I didn't play it that night. I played it 2 nights later, and my socks were rocked. Like, I cannot believe that this game is as good as it is. I can't believe the Tango Games works like developed something that is so different than they've ever done before, and they nailed it. Like, we talk about all the time these developers that like you gotta trust, and we don't really know, and like, are they gonna deliver? And for me, like, Tango is now something that I'm like, they can do it. Like, no matter what, I previously was like, oh yeah, like horror, like that's their genre. You show me something this bright, I'd be like, this isn't for them. No, they can do whatever they want. They have a creative enough team to be able to do it. I hope the next game is Hi-Fi Rush 2. And if and when that gets announced, you will never see a bigger pop for myself. Like, this is one of my favorite games ever. Like, I can't believe that, like, when you were streaming it, I woke up every single day that you were streaming it, and the first thought I thought was, I am so jealous that Connor gets to stream this game tonight. Like, there was actual, like, I would then listen to the soundtrack, the licensed music in this game, Nine Inch Nails, the Black Keys. Like, are you kidding me? It's just some of my favorite songs. Like, it's unbelievable what they were able to do. I adore this game. I understand that you didn't have it too high. This was my number 3 on my list. I can't shut up about this game. It once again, another game that at one point was number 1 on my list. Not just for like in January, literally this week when I was like, do I just put it at number 1? It's in my top 3 favorite games of all time, and I can't say that about what I have above it, but I adore it. Like, it's a game that I think is a 9.5 out of 10 that I love, like an 11 out of 10. Like, it's unbelievable, and I want. This will not be the last time you will hear me gush about this game. Whenever anybody says, give me a recommendation for Xbox Game Pass, are you kidding me? That is the number 1 thing. I can't recommend it enough. It's short, it's terrific, great characters, great combat, probably like a top 3 combat system this year. Okay, I'm good.
Yep.
Do you like this game too?
Yeah, I like it a lot. You covered almost everything that I want to say, so
Yeah.
I think we should just move on to Resident Evil 4.
Great.
A remake here. We've all played this game. Me, you, and Brady have all touched Resident Evil 4 remake. We just watched another playthrough of it because Brady just beat it on stream, and yeah, it's Resident Evil 4 original is one of my favorite games of all time, and while I still think it's better, the fact that this doesn't just totally replace Resident Evil 4 original and builds a new experience that is all its own but also the same, is so impressive. Like, there can be days where I'm like, I feel like playing Resident Evil 4 original, and I feel like playing Resident Evil 4 remake, and they're both valid. And I can see myself going back to both of them individually in the future. So with that in mind, like, Resident Evil 4 remake, I think is doing something that no remake has ever done before, and I think it's exceedingly well at
Yeah.
it. Like when it comes to gunplay, when it comes to item management, I spent so much time in that item box making everything look pretty. I am so anal retentive about my item box. All the ammo needs to be stacked by size. Smallest up top, biggest at the bottom. And anytime I'm picking up a new item, I'm going in there and shuffling everything around and making sure it looks good. And don't you dare press that auto sort button. I swear to God, that is heinous.
Sinful.
Yes, don't do that. But when it comes to just being a romp, mixing horror and campiness and action, like I think that Resident Evil 4 is probably top in its class. I prefer Resident Evil 2 remake, but we are on a string of fantastic remakes from Capcom. They really just have not missed yet. It's exciting to see where they go next after this, but I'm sure it'll be great no matter what.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I've said this many times on different forms of content. This is the ultimate action horror adventure. Like when I talk about the ultimate action story, I bring up Uncharted 4. Like that defines what I want from a game like that. And for a action horror game, Resident Evil 4 Remake is the must-play title for me. Where it is the story, the goofiness, the unnecessary backflips. Like this game does it all to such a high level that, in my opinion, this game is flawless.
The roundhouse kicks, Nick.
But like the different boss fights, how the item management is Resident Evil top notch tier. Like at the end of the day, I don't have it as a 10, but talk to me in a year. Like where it's like this game might just be a masterpiece. Like it might just be a 10. I might just need to bite the bullet and say it's a 10, right? And so yeah, it's what a year in gaming where this is not in our top 2. But the last thing I need to say is, yeah, this game well deserved to be nominated for Game of the Year because it is a masterpiece. And if you want the top 6 games of the year, it should be there. So, ready to get into our number 1?
Yep. Let's hear it, Brady.
Alrighty. The big winners. Obviously, there's a tie. You guys knew it. Sitting at number 1, no surprise, Alan Wake 2, tied with Final Fantasy 16.
I had Alan Wake 2 multiple times as my number 1.
Yeah, I had Final Fantasy 16 as my number 1 a week ago or a week or two ago. I sent my list originally to Brady and our friend Andy, and I was like, I think this is what I got, and I had Final Fantasy 16 at the top. And then I shuffled things around, and I ended up putting Alan Wake. Honestly, watching you play a lot of Alan Wake 2, I was like, oh, this game is actually better than Final Fantasy 16.
I think that there is a case that Alan Wake 2 is a better game. And we'll
I think on objective, on paper, Alan Wake 2 is the better game.
Yeah. But for what I want in a video game, Final Fantasy 16 exceeds every expectation I could ever want. Characters, story, combat, music are 4 pillars that I turn to for gaming at a consistent level, and every single one of those categories, Final Fantasy 16 blows the doors off. Clive is one of the best Final Fantasy protagonists of all time, if not the best. The combat is DMC5 level of craziness, powerfulness, and madness, and it's all beautiful. The music is the best music this year, bar none. And the overarching story is so interesting, Game of Thrones-esque. And then the cherry on top is the boss fight. The boss fights are the best in the industry, period. Like, they are the best to ever do it. The Bahamut boss fight and the Titan boss fight are 2 of the greatest moments in gaming history. And the fact that they were able to make those moments as horrific, well-scored, and hype, for me, I just consistently went back to the fact that the Bahamut boss fight, the 4, 5, 6 level layered boss fight where it is you're doing this and then you're doing that and then you're now in the sky and now you get thrown through the ground and then like it just is so high level consistently, and the stakes that get placed on it, the moment to moment. At the end of the day, like I was like, there's the We Sing moment in Alan Wake 2 is my second favorite moment. And when I was really trying to decipher which one I would have higher, that was the cherry on top. Was the Bahamut boss fight for me is my favorite moment in gaming this year, and so we're talking about two titans, in my opinion. Like we're talking about
two icons, even.
We're talking about two of the greatest games this year. I hope that Final Fantasy 16 gets a lot more love on others' list. We're going to be posting our individual top 10s on TikTok and everything. So if you're watching the podcast, look out for that there. But like, yeah, Final Fantasy 16 is my number one this year, and it's like between Tears, Ari, Hi-Fi, Alan Wake 2, and FF16. I was like almost like crying during this decision, being like, these games are all, I have them all as 9.5 out of 10s, and I can see a case for all of them in my, like, I can make a case for them being masterpieces. And so, really difficult.
Can I talk about Final Fantasy?
I was about to say, you want to talk about Final Fantasy?
Yeah, I think there was moments in Final Fantasy 16 that I was like, how is this still getting better? Like, I was blown away by that first major icon fight, not the one that's in the intro, but like, you know what I'm talking
Yep.
where there's one amazing fight that is more personal and you're playing as Clive, and then there's a second amazing fight that is more of like the kaiju, the icon fights or
Yep.
whatever, like these big, bombastic, amazing fights, and then like it goes again
Yeah.
after that. And I was like, holy shit, and the music is ramping, and the story implications are ramping, and the emotions are ramping. And I was like, is this just going to keep going up? Is this ever going to go down? Like, and finally the dust settles, and you're like, okay, we can breathe now. And then it's only a few hours later that you're back on that fucking ascension. Like,
Yeah.
it's just next level in that way. There goes my phone. And I love it to death. I think Clive, Rosfield, Jill, Torgal, these are some of the Sid, like these are some of the greatest Final Fantasy characters, period. Clive might be the greatest Final Fantasy character ever, and he's masterfully voiced by Ben Starr. I think he gives the best performance of the year, bar none. It's not even close.
Yeah.
It's not even close, in my opinion.
The second half of that game, Clive is just on another level of acting.
And all I wanted as we were approaching the end, I was like, they just stick the landing. Just stick the landing. Please, just stick the landing. And they stuck it.
Yep.
They fucking stuck the landing. It's amazing. I think Final Fantasy 16 is a must-play. It's different than all the other Final Fantasies in the fact that it's action-focused, but it still feels like Final Fantasy. It still has all the pillars of a great Final Fantasy game. And I was excited to play it every moment I was picking it up.
Yep.
So.
And then Alan Wake 2.
My game of the year.
Yep.
I wanted so badly for Alan Wake 2 to review poorly so I didn't have to play it.
Yep.
I was like, there's so many fucking games. I just want to break. If this reviews poorly, I can take some time off and play like just a retro game or something and just have some time to myself. And then it reviewed fantastically and I was like, fuck, okay, all right, I'll play it. And I picked it up and I was like, I didn't play the first one, I didn't play Control, so like let's just kind of see what's going on here. And like that game has one of the greatest openings to any video game ever. And I was like, oh. And then you don't shoot a gun in that game for the first like 2 hours. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. They're really very atmospheric. They're very much just like kind of easing you into this experience, into this nightmare. And then the dual protagonist aspect gets introduced. We knew about this, but the way that it's done and the way that it's handled is insane with how different these two paths are, but the way they intertwine and how it feels to switch between Saga and Alan, and the way the mind place works and the storyboard works and how that changes the world and how the story is told through these manuscript pages that are telling the future and what it all means and what your theories are and how you come away from this game with more questions than answers, but those questions are begging to be asked and begging to be eventually answered, and the conversations that swirl around it are Inception level, like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this situation? How do you think this went? And those theory crafting people are going to feast on this game for probably a decade until we get Alan Wake 3, which will come eventually, you would imagine. But then you come back to boiling it down to the gameplay as well. Saga and Alan both play a little bit differently. They both get different weapons. And I think when it comes to being a survival horror game, whereas the original was more of a action shooter in a horror setting. Like that item management and that wanting to hit every shot and hit that headshot like is so Resident Evil, and now it is so Alan Wake.
Yeah.
I don't think it feels as good as tight as those remakes that came out this year, but when it comes to just being a vehicle for experiencing the story and experiencing the atmosphere of this world that is just dripping, it is oozing with style. It's a great vehicle for that. Like the shotgun feels powerful and punchy. The pistol, you're trying to hit every shot, you want to not miss, and it sounds so crisp and it's so good, man. Like I can gush about Alan Wake 2 for days, but I don't want to spoil it as well. Like it's hard to talk about.
The fun part of this game is like we on October 10th, let's just say hypothetically, I would have said there's a really good chance neither of us play it, and then the fact that we got put in a situation that you were basically forced into playing it, being like, oh, I want to play this is going to happen, it'll be great for the channel, we can do a review, we can get some new reviews up, like this makes sense, let's do it, right? The fact that you reviewed it so highly, and then I had the goal this year to play, at least play, not beat, but play all 6 nominees for Game of the Year. When it got nominated, I was like, shit, I'm gonna have to do it. And in a 3-stream, 20 hours of bonus streaming week of the Game Awards, I beat Alan Wake 2. And part of the reason that this kind of sucks, because I haven't let the dust fully settle on this, the thing that I just keep going back to, I'm like, how's this a video game? Like, this in Final Fantasy 16, I'm glad that they're tied for number 1, because both had moments that I said, this isn't even a video game. Like, this goes beyond what I think a video game could even possibly do. Like, they changed the industry in ways that I am dumbfounded by. And yes, we played Baldur's Gate 3, not our game. I also understand that video game did exactly that also. So I believe it should be in that conversation of Game of the Year, and I'm more than okay with it winning Game of the Year. I'm not upset. I'm like great for it. It's not our game. But I think those 3 titles this year are the ones that literally changed what I thought a video game could even be. Alan Wake 2 does so masterfully with the storytelling and narrative that my favorite movie of all time is Inception, and I think that this story is better. Like, we're talking about a whole medium, and like this is my favorite story in the medium, and this is just so definitively better. Like, it's unbelievable, and I compare those 2 things because they are pretty comparable. I am obsessed with this story. I am so excited to listen to years and years of podcasts to come. I think that this is the must-play horror title, like basically forever. Like
of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah, we're like next year we'll probably schedule Brady playing it on stream, and the year after that, like for spooky season, and like it's just must play. Like it is a must-play title. And at the end of the day, as much as I am petrified of this game, and Connor creeping in my ear going, wake, like, and Brady grabbing my leg during the opening, and like these things that I am a scaredy cat through and through. The fact that I was so deeply invested into this story, I never took a break due to scare. I took a break for water or a meal, but like when I was streaming it, I was always, I'm so deeply in. And then there were the certain moments that I'm like, I'm so scared, but I'm just going to run through. But that's what the game wants you to do, is run for your life at certain points.
I had to put the controller down so often to just breathe. Just be like, okay, I'm just going to take a second, and then like I'll pick this back up, and I would just sit on my phone and scroll on my phone for a little bit, and then I'm like, okay, we're back. We're going back in. And it was, I started playing that game, and I was like, there's no way it's that good, right? And then like a few hours in, I was like, oh. And then like 5 hours in, I was like, is this one of the greatest games I've ever played in my entire life?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it is. It totally is. And then we got towards the end, and I was like, yeah, this just didn't let off the gas the entire time, and deserves, in my opinion, to be Game of the Year, and I think is a new high watershed moment for video games as a medium, and for video games as a whole.
Before I got my hands on it, I listened to some other things, and people like certain people said that it didn't stick the landing, or it sort of just ended. I was like, I think it just stuck the landing so hard, in my opinion, that I'm like, sure, it doesn't feel like 1,000% complete, but the game wants you to ask questions at the end of it.
Right.
It doesn't just want you to be like, all right, I'm done. I'm never going to think about this game again. This game implores you to go and think about it for years to come.
To have discussions with your friends, to listen to podcasts, to read forums, to like learn more and
play it again.
Because if you play it again, based off of what you know from the ending, your experience is going to be totally different. And apparently the New Game Plus adds cutscenes. There's more to it.
I can't, dude. I can't go back in.
I want to say the last line in this game so badly right now, but I can't say it because it highlights the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
Dude, oh man, it's just so difficult to talk about this game and not talk about every little bit of it.
Yeah.
But that was our game of the year. Brady, can we get a recap of the entire list? Just go bottom to top here.
We absolutely can. We'll start from the bottom. Sitting at number 8, we had Forza Motorsports. Going to number 7, we had Starfield. 6 was Cocoon. 5, Super Mario Wonder. 4 was Spider-Man 2. 3, we had a two-way tie with Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty and the Dead Space remake. 2 was our three-way tie with Resident Evil 4 remake, Tears of the Kingdom, and Hi-Fi Rush. And then number 1, Final Fantasy 16 and Alan Wake 2.
What are you?
I'm happy with this list.
I'm so happy with this list, mainly because like I got put in a spot before the end of this, literally just being like, between these top 5 games, all the top 5 games are two or one, right, on our list basically. And I was like, I can't choose. Like, I literally can't choose. So the fact that they're getting recognized on our list as highly as I think they deserve to be, because I don't think Tears is a number 5 game on a list. I don't think that Hi-Fi Rush is a number 4 or a number 6. I think that these games are all deserving of like silver or gold medals, basically. Like they're that high level, and I didn't play the game at all. I didn't rank anything to try to like boost my rankings. Hi-Fi Rush was the hardest one, and Tears was also really
I thought about playing the game a little bit more, and then I just was like, I just got to be true to myself and just rank
I
where
thought that there was
things.
a chance that you would put Cyberpunk as your number 2.
I thought about it.
Yeah, and that just to like probably inch it over something else, right?
Yeah, but even then, it's like the top 3 for me: Cyberpunk, Final Fantasy 16, and Alan Wake. I think you could ask me on any given day, and it would potentially change.
And as someone that hasn't played 2077 yet, like I bet like that game is so me. Like that game, like dude, the atmosphere,
it's fucking awesome.
And like
it's punk rock
exactly.
as fuck, dude.
Like it's just cool, right? And so I could easily see that being that same conversation. But I am, as someone like gaming this year has been probably the best part of my year, not just with the channel, but just like taking the moments to actually play some of these games. And that being highlighted by after our discussion on the Game of the Year and the Game Awards overall, being like, holy smokes, like, they did it. And then I got to play some Tears of the Kingdom after. I'm like, this game's so good. Like it's so good. All these games are so good. But at the end of the day, 2023 gave me probably... It's gonna be hard because a lot of people already judge me for not having certain retro games as 10s when I've discussed that on content. But like, do I want to put Alan Wake 2 as a 10? A little bit. Do I want to put Tears as 10? A little bit. Like,
right.
So it's really difficult.
All right, that was your casual gaming conversation. Thank you so much for tuning in. We go live every Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That was our Game of the Year list. Have a happy holiday season, and peace out.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was our top games of 2023, but we want to go and provide a draft at the end of every casual gaming conversation, and so that's what we're doing right now, and today we are drafting the best PlayStation 1 games, one of the deepest consoles of all time, if not the deepest. That's what you were saying.
Greatest
before.
console of all time.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Wow. I have 25 games on my list to potentially pull from. I ordered the top 10 and tried to have some sort of framework to go off of, but I could see myself pulling my 25th game here and adding that to my team at the tail end, because I think you could have 5 different people drafting for this draft, and all of them have great picks with their last pick, if that makes sense. So
I'm down for it.
yeah, go for it, Nick. What do we got?
I'm going to kick us off with this draft, and I can go a few different ways. I'm going to shock the world here and not go where Connor thinks I'm going to go and you all think I'm going to go. I'm going to go with Metal Gear Solid 1.
I had my plans in my head for how I thought this draft was going to go, with you picking Final Fantasy VII,
Yep.
and then me doing what I had to do from there.
Yep.
And I thought I was going to win because I was going to get Metal Gear Solid and something else.
And yeah, what I think is going to be your first pick. But no, I'm not going to go FF7 original. I'm going to play it smart. I'm going to play the board a little bit here. And I'm going Metal Gear Solid. It's the thing that started it all off. It's the game that literally made Kojima. It put him on the map. It's unbelievable what this game has done. It introduced us to a whole array of characters that some come back for many, many iterations. Like, unbelievable. It's a game changer. Like, this game literally changed the future of gaming, and it's one of the most important games of all time, one of the greatest games of all time, and is the first pick on my team.
With my first pick, because Nick stole my first pick, I'm going to go Final Fantasy IX.
Yep.
You have to go Final Fantasy IX. I'm not going to pick Final Fantasy VII just because it's more popular, because Final Fantasy IX is way better in my opinion. It is the best Final Fantasy game. It is timeless. It looks the part. It still looks great to this day. It has some of the greatest characters. It has some of the greatest music. It returns back to that fantasy setting that made Final Fantasy. And I think it is the best Final Fantasy and deserves to be the number one overall pick for my team. With my second pick, we're going to go with Castlevania Symphony of the Night. A long storied series from the NES, SNES era comes to the PlayStation. Igarashi shepherding this game into a new direction. The pixel art style, fantastic. The castle, the art direction, the music, the platforming, the weapons. Everything about it is so timeless. You can pick up this game and enjoy it today as you did when it came out in the 90s. I think that it is a immaculate game, and the twist that comes halfway through this game is legendary. So good. That's my second pick.
It was number 4 on my board, so I would have picked it next. But I have been dancing on this side of the table because I did play my cards right. I knew for a fact Connor wasn't going to pick Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, I've been played.
He was going to go with Final Fantasy IX every day. So what do I get with my second pick? We all knew it was coming. The fact that I'm able to get it 4 picks deep into a PlayStation 1 draft is unbelievable. I'm going with Final Fantasy VII. The best music in gaming. Some of the most iconic characters. The best villain in gaming. Wrap it up. This draft is over. I got Metal Gear and Final Fantasy VII. I have not played Final Fantasy IX yet. It's the game I'm playing next on stream. I'm super excited to play this game and experience this world and fall in love with these characters. But when I think about music, there's nothing that will ever top Aerith's theme for me in anything. Like, it's my favorite piece of music ever. And so yeah, I'm stoked. Like, I got exactly what I wanted, exactly what I needed. You want that from you for my Final Fantasy. And with my third pick, I'm going to get a little bit crazy. I'm going to grab my beanie. I'm going to throw on an old 90s rock record. And I'm going to play Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 with my next pick. I am so excited to have this part of my team because it is one of, when you think of PS1 classics, when you think of just classic video games overall, the amount of times that you and I have had to guess Tony Hawk on a freaking list, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 is one of the greatest games of all time because it's one of the most fun games of all time. The fun per minute on this game, Connor, the stat that I love to go to in gaming is off the charts. It is just pure fun. You're grinding, you're all in, you're having the best time of your life. Give me Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. I'm smoking you right now.
No, you're not. With my third pick, I'm going to go with another iconic franchise on the PlayStation 1. We're going to go Resident Evil 2. The best Resident Evil on the PlayStation 1. It learned so much from the original, and brought it to the next level with the sequel. Iconic characters that were introduced to Leon and Claire, Mr. X, Ada Wong, fantastic. I don't think the tank controls have aged perfectly, obviously. We have the remake for that. But even then, for its time, it provided so many scares in so many stressful situations, having to turn around your character with the tank controls to get a shot off or run away. It is survival horror at its finest. I think Resident Evil 2 deserves to be on this list for sure. And with my third pick, I think it slots in there quite nicely.
It was on my board. It had to be on my board, but would not have been my next pick. Connor's scrolling so far down his list. The fact that he has 25 games that he wants to pull from for this draft is insanity. Where are you going?
There's so many places to go here.
What are you buying?
Fuck. Because I want to diversify my team. I can't just pick JRPGs is the problem.
Yeah, you can. Pick the best games on PlayStation 1. We're drafting the best PlayStation 1 games, Connor.
No, I feel dirty about doing that.
Okay, well, I
don't like that.
Okay, do what you want to do, but I mean... The PlayStation 1 is the king of the JRPG. Like,
it really is.
Let's just like take a moment and understand that. So the fact that you can draft, there's another terrific Final Fantasy game on the board if you still want it.
There is, isn't there?
Yeah.
That was my fourth overall pick, and I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
It's my number 6.
I'm going to diversify here further a little bit. And I'm going to go with Tekken 3.
Damn it. That was... Oh, I wanted to close out my draft with Tekken 3.
I really just need to keep developing this team. You need your different position players here. Tekken 3 adds that fighting game element. One of the greatest 3D fighters of all time. Iconic characters, iconic fights, great story mode. Like, Tekken 3 is fantastic, and one of the crown jewels of my PS1 collection. I love that game.
I was so excited to take that game. I was so excited to get my fighting game in there, and it was going to be a perfect draft. I'm going to go Xenogears with my next pick. It's one of the greatest games of all time. It's one of the most beloved games of all time. I'm going to go Xenogears, and I'm going to pair it with Final Fantasy Tactics. At the end of the day, I just want the best games on my team. These are the best games that on the PS1. I wanted Tekken 3. I would have loved to close out my draft with Tekken 3 and FF Tactics. But here I am. I got one of the two. I was trying to play the game. It was between Tony Hawk Pro Skater and Tekken 3 for my last pick. Oh, I got burned. I burned Connor, and then he burned me back.
I just want to list off some games here real fast for my potential for my last pick. Because there's so many. There's too many to count. Legend of Dragoon,
yep.
Suikoden 2, Silent Hill, Crash Team Racing, Parasite Eve, Vagrant Story, Chrono Cross, Crash 2, Ape Escape, Gran Turismo 2, Twisted Metal 2, Legacy of Kain, Wild Arms, and Parappa the Rapper. Like, ridiculous.
I have one of those games still in my top 10.
I'm between Chrono Cross and Legend of Dragoon.
Okay, I have one of those at my number 9 and one at 13. So
okay.
They're like, I think you can't go wrong with either of those picks, but I think that there is a correct pick. I also think that there will be some comments that say you win this draft if you pick the right one.
Yeah,
and I think that,
and because of that, I feel like the more beloved one, the one that's talked about more to this day, is Legend of Dragoon. I feel like that's what comes up in our Twitch chat often. It's a game that I haven't played personally, but I'm shocked that I don't even have it in my collection yet. But it's beloved. It's on PS5. It was one of the first games to come to the PS5, PS1 collection that started recently. People won't shut up about wanting a remake for it, and I'm right there with you. I would love a remake of that game so I could experience it for the first time. But Legend of Dragoon with the final pick. This is an impossible draft to do. There's a team out there with the remaining options that could possibly beat our teams.
The bench players on this draft are unbelievable.
Insane.
they're
insane.
Unreal.
It is the best console of all time. It's just it's so difficult not to see that.
Silent Hill, Chrono Cross,
Parasite Eve.
Like there's so many deep games that like
Bushido Blade, Tenchu. Like, come on, ridiculous. All right. That was your draft for the week. That was your casual gaming conversation. Thank you so much for hanging with us and watching every week. We stream Monday through Thursday, 7 to 10 Eastern Standard Time. New TikToks every day. Casual gaming conversation Thursdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much, and peace out.